Hi everyone, I'm back with a brand new math lesson. Today we're going to talk about dividing decimals just like you see on your screen. If you could get out a sheet of scratch paper, we have our first example up on the screen. Copy down the problem and work it out with me, please. Because we are doing division, we want to write this in a way that we can calculate it by hand. So we're going to start by setting up a long division bar. The first number in my division problem is my dividend. We're going to place that inside the long division bar. And the second value, the 8, is our divisor. That's going to go on the outside. Now, before I start dividing, because I have a value that is in decimal form as a dividend, that decimal point is going to shoot straight up into my quotient. So if you want to make a decimal point up there to keep everything aligned, you know you'll have to have a decimal in your result. Now we're ready to divide. 8 cannot go into 1, so I'm going to jump to my next digit, 2. Dividing 8 now into 12. 8 will fit one time. And now we're going to multiply. 1 times 8 is 8. 12 minus 8 is 4. Don't forget your check step. 4 is less than 8. So now I can bring down the next digit, 1, and we're going to repeat that division process. Now 8 dividing into 41 will fit 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40. Now it's time to subtract. 41 minus 40 gives me a result of 1. 1 is less than 8. So bring down your next digit, the 6, and repeat the division one more time. 8 divides into 16. It'll fit in twice. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 minus 16 is 0. 0 is less than 8. No values left to bring down, and no remainder. So our final quotient, 15.2. Let's try another example together. 578 divided by 1.5. Make sure you're copying this down and working through it with me. Again, setting up a long division problem, start with your long division bar. The first value in the division is your dividend. That dividend needs to go inside of your long division bar, and your divisor, in this case 1.5, will go outside. Now, our number written in decimal form is the divisor. We cannot divide by hand a number, a divisor, that is in decimal form. So our first task is to get rid of the decimal in this divisor. To do that, we need to bring it all the way to the end. We're going to jump it over one place value to the right. And essentially, we're creating a brand new division problem. If I move that decimal point one place value to the right, I'm going to be left with a divisor of 15. But in order to mathematically do that, if I'm moving this decimal point one place value to the right, I have to do the same thing to the dividend. Right now, the decimal point is after the 8. And if I was to jump it one place value to the right, that would cause a 0 to occur here. So my new dividend, after I move my decimal point, is 5,780. So now that I move my decimal point, we can go ahead and complete the division down here, dividing by 15. 15 will not go into 5. So instead, we're going to take 15 into 57. 15 will fit into 57 3 times. 3 times 15 is 45. Now we subtract. 57 minus 45 gives me 12. Don't forget your check step. 12 is less than 15, so I can bring down my next digit, which is an 8. Now we're dividing 15 into 128. If you need help with this, that's a tough division problem. You can count on the side of your paper by 15s. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, and try to get as close to 128 as possible without going over. 75, 90, 105, 120, 135. So the closest we can get is 120. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Now we're multiplying. 8 times 15 is 120. When we subtract 128 minus 120, we are left with 8. Don't forget your check step. 8 is less than 15, so now I can drop my 0. Now we're dividing 15 into 80. How close to 80 can we get without going over? Well, we can get to 75. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 5 times 15 is 75, and when we subtract, we're left with a remainder of 5. Because we are working with values written in decimal form, remainders are no longer acceptable. So what we're going to do, up in our dividend. Remember we moved this decimal point behind the 0? That's where it's still at. So move your decimal point up into your quotient. So we have 385 point something. And because I added that decimal point, I can add another 0 that will not change the value of my dividend, and I can drop it into my long division and continue the division loop. So now we're going 15 into 50. That will fit 3 times. 3 times 15 is 45. 50 minus 45 is 5. Still have a remainder. Drop another 0. And again, we're dividing 15 into 50. That will go 3 times. 3 times 15 is 45. We're left with 5 again. Are you catching on with what's happening here? No matter how many zeros I drop, this 3 will continue to repeat. So our final quotient is 385 point, a 3 that continues to repeat. And to show that repetition, we put a little line above the 3 called a repetend bar. 385.3 repeating. Nicely done. Let's do one more example together. 3.126 divided by 1.2. Again, our first step is to set this up as a long division problem. 3.126 is our dividend. It's the first value in the division problem. It goes inside the long division bar. 1.2, the divisor will go outside. Now, before we start dividing, I hope you noticed there is a decimal value as a divisor. We cannot have that, so we need to bump our decimal point all the way to the end of this number to create a whole number divisor. If I jump that decimal point one place to the right, that divisor becomes 12. Because my decimal point moved one place value to the right in the divisor, the same thing has to happen with my dividend. So I'm moving that decimal point one place to the right, so it's now between the 1 and the 2. Rewrite your new dividend, 31.26. And because my divisor is now a whole number, we can go ahead and start our long division. Dividing 12 into 3. 12 will not go into 3, so we're going to extend this out to 31. Counting 12 into 31. How many 12s will fit into 31? 12 goes into 31 twice, and now we multiply. 2 times 12 is 24. Subtracting 31 minus 24 is 7. Check step, 7 is less than 12, so we can bring down our next value, 2. Don't forget your decimal point in your dividend will move directly up into your quotient. And now we're going to repeat that division process. 12 into 72. If you're counting by 12s, 12 will fit into 72 6 times. 6 times 12 is 72. 72 minus 72 is 0, which is less than 12. Now we can bring down our next value, 6. Repeating the division, 12 goes into 6 0 times. 0 times 12 is 0. Subtract. 6 minus 0 is 6. And because I have a remainder 6, I no longer want a remainder. Because my decimal point is already here, I can add a 0, drop it, and continue the dividing process. Now we're dividing 12 into 60. 12 goes into 60 5 times. 5 times 12 is 60, and when I subtract, I have no remainder left over. My final quotient, 2.605. All right, sorry about that. My document camera fell. Finally, I have 2 problems I want you to try on your own. Copy these down on your sheet of paper. Pause the video, work them out on your own. Once you've completed both, start playing the video again and check your work. All right, I hope you had enough time to complete both problems. Let's check and see how you did. First problem, 245 divided by 0.7, setting up as long division. 245 is my dividend, 0.7 is my divisor. Notice immediately a decimal point in my divisor, not a whole number. To make it a whole number, we're moving the decimal point all the way to the right. My new divisor is 7. Because I moved my decimal point one place to the right here, I need to move my decimal point in the 245. Decimal point right now is after the 5. To jump a place value to the right would cause me to add a 0. So my new dividend is 2,450. And now we're ready to divide. 7 can't go into 2, so now I'm taking it into 24. 7 will go into 24 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. 24 minus 21 is 3. 3 is less than 7. Bring down your 5. Repeating that process. 7 goes into 35 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35. 35 minus 35 is 0, which is less than 7. One more digit to bring down is a 0, and 7 will go into 0 0 times. 0 times 7 is 0. We have no remainder. Our final quotient for the first one, 350. All right, and number 2, checking your work. Setting up long division. Our dividend, 84.95 divided by 0.5. Our divisor is not a whole number. Make it a whole number 5 by moving the decimal point all the way to the end. My divisor is now 5. And I'm going to do the same thing to my dividend. We're going to jump the decimal point one place to the right. It is now between the 9 and the 5. Our new dividend, 849.5. All right, we are ready for long division. 5 is going to go into 8 once. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract. 8 minus 5 is 3, which is less than 5, so I am allowed to bring down the 4. Now, 5 goes into 34 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. 34 minus 30 is 4, which is less than 5. Go ahead and bring down your next digit, the 9. Ready for our next round of division. 5 goes into 49 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. Subtracting 45 from 49 leaves me with 4. 4 is less than 5, so we bring down the next digit, 5. Don't forget about this decimal point. It gets popped straight up into your quotient. And now we're ready for another round of division. 5 fitting into 45. That will go 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. 45 minus 45 is 0. No digits left to bring down. No remainder means my final quotient is 169.9. Please don't forget to complete the dividing decimals independent practice. Take a picture of your work and upload that image file for submission. See you next time, guys.